Roswell Flight Test Crew here at InterDrone 2015, where we've just received word there's going to be a very exciting announcement from DJI about a new product. Let's go find out what it's all about.
So in the next evolution of aerial imaging, what we're announcing is the Zenmuse X5. The Zenmuse X5 is the world's first stabilized micro Four Thirds aerial camera. Now it's 3-axis stabilized using the Zenmuse Gimbal technology. It features a micro Four Thirds size sensor that captures still images at 16 megapixels to JPEG or Adobe DNG RAW, and 4K video at 24 and 30 frames per second. Of course, the Zenmuse X5 is designed to be mounted on that interchangeable lens mount on the Inspire 1, making it the first ready-to-fly aerial camera with a micro Four Thirds sensor. So being able to mount a micro Four Thirds camera on an Inspire 1 is only possible because we removed all of the unnecessary elements in the camera. So this is the same thing that we've been doing since the Vision Plus, which is removing things that are used for the ground, like a grip, a viewfinder, controls. I mean, those of you who have used a land-based micro Four Thirds sensor with the lens attached have seen how heavy they can be. And in fact, the ones that are commonly used in the air require large gimbals and heavier lift platforms. The Zenmuse X5 weighs 1.16 pounds. Now that's with a lens and a lens hood, and is about 5.5 inches square. Let's take a moment to just look at what makes micro Four Thirds sensors so exciting. It's really all about size. And the Phantoms and the Zenmuse X3 that were on the Inspire 1 use 1/2.3 inch sensors, and this is a very standard sensor size for action cameras and smaller compact cameras. The biggest blue area is the size of a micro Four Thirds sensor, which is over 8 times larger than the sensors that are in some of the smaller compact cameras, including the DJI Phantom. Now, what that means is we have very big pixels. And big pixels are important because there's more surface area to collect photons. And it's all about collecting photons. And if you have more surface area to collect photons, that generally means that you get higher dynamic range. This camera is capable of capturing 12.8 stops of dynamic range, which is very competitive. And also, larger sensors capture both stills and video with very little noise. And accompanying the X5 is DJI's micro Four Thirds f1.7 aspherical lens. This has a 72-degree field of view, so it's like a 30mm lens equivalent. And it features very sharp aspherical lens elements, and it's lightweight, weighing about 1/4 pound. And the Zenmuse X5 supports additional lenses. These are the current lenses that it will support. It supports the Olympus 12mm f2.0 lens, the Panasonic 15mm f1.7 lens, and the Olympus 17mm f1.8 lens. Now we will have additional lens support in the future. It of course has to fit in the gimbal. The other thing that's very important for those of you who use gimbals is that gimbals with cameras need to be balanced. So the way that we are solving this is by selling accessory hoods for these lenses that when attached center place the center of gravity in a way such that the gimbal remains balanced. Let's talk about Zenmuse gimbal technology very briefly. Now, of course, it's a Zenmuse gimbal, so it incorporates DJI's class-leading camera stabilization technology. So here are the specs. The controllable range is -90 degrees in pitch, which is straight down, to +30 degrees, which is a little bit up, plus and minus 320 degrees, that's almost a full circle in each direction. Now the max controllable speed is 120 degrees a second in pitch and 180 degrees a second in pan. That means it can turn a full 360 degrees in 3 seconds. The accuracy is 0.02 degrees during stabilization. Now that just sounds like a number I'm throwing out, but the reason it's important is that's sub-pixel stabilization. So as the Zenmuse is stabilizing, the amount of motion that you're getting during that stabilization is less than 1 pixel's worth on the resulting image. And this practically means that you should not see stabilization artifacts in your resulting video. Now we have an advanced imaging processor in the Zenmuse X5. We have 16 megapixel still capture in JPEG and Adobe DNG RAW. Our ISO range is 100 to 25,600. We burst at up to 7 frames per second, and we have advanced noise reduction because of that large sensor and the processor. And we have some special shooting modes. We have auto exposure bracketing, HDR, panorama modes, and time-lapse modes. So you're starting to see this sort of feel like a camera. You know, the normal cameras that you use on the ground typically have all these modes. Like on the video side, we shoot at 4K at 30 and 24 frames per second. We are broadcast ready. We're shooting using H.264 compression in the main profile level 4.1. And we have advanced 3D denoising for about 2 stops of lower light shooting. Now 3D denoising is interesting because if you imagine standard noise reduction on a still frame, all you have are the pixels in that frame from which to calculate how you want to reduce the noise. But in 3D denoising, you are also able to look at history. So you can look at previous frames and analyze those in conjunction with your current frame to reduce noise. So when combined with the mechanical stabilization that we have in our gimbals, you can do some really interesting work in low light. So what this all means is that the X5 is a pretty compelling professional grade camera. The photos look great, and that clean micro four thirds sensor enables you to capture shots that are difficult to reproduce, like this one, you know, shooting straight into the sun at sunset. We have advanced capture modes like bursts of 7 frames per second, other things that I've mentioned that allow you to nail the shot, really to tell a story. And really, of course, what we're trying to do here is create tools that allow you to tell stories. Now I mentioned there's a panorama mode in the Zenmuse X5. In this mode, the gimbal automatically moves the camera to take multiple pictures so that the optimal overlap percentage is present in a series of pictures to allow you to stitch your gimbals in post. And of course, as with all Inspire 1 based aerial imagery, long distance flights are easy because LightBridge is integrated. So you have long range, reliable wireless connectivity and HD previews. Now, I've been talking a lot about cameras, but really what we need to remember is that the Zenmuse X5 is an aerial camera, and it's integrated with the Inspire 1. Now on the wireless control side, the Zenmuse X5 is controlled in the same way that other DJI cameras are controlled. So this would be using ergonomic physical controls on the remote controller, and also using our best-in-class app for iOS and Android, which is DJI Go. So using DJI Go, users have full control of both flight and camera settings. So all aspects of video and still capture can be controlled from DJI Go. This includes shutter speed, ISO, capture modes like burst mode, auto exposure, bracketing, things like that. And also new for the Zenmuse X5, you can also control aperture and focus. So suddenly you have full control over a camera, including things like aperture, which we didn't have before, and of course focus. It is the world's first aerial autofocus system. It uses high-speed, contrast-based autofocus. We have a 256 zone touchable AF. So to focus while you're using DJI Go, you just tap on the screen and it will focus there. There are also autofocus and manual modes that you can use to assist focus. Of course, one is fully manual focus. You can use one of the controls or the interface on the screen to slide focus around. We also have focus assist mode. This is automatic zooming when you manually focus. And we have focus peaking. It's a way for us to tell you what's in focus based on overlays, other than rather than you having to just try to see what's sharp. But we're also announcing today DJI Focus. Now this is a wireless follow focus system. Now this is a versatile wireless follow focus system that can be used with any motors you want, but it can also be plugged into the Inspire 1 remote. We're providing camera lens functionality for wireless focus using a physical controller that can be plugged into the Inspire remote. So, you can now have a pilot, a dedicated camera operator, and in fact, if you wanted, you could have a dedicated person pulling focus while plugged into one of the other radios. Now, the wireless signal isn't standalone when used with the Inspire. So we're using the Inspire 1's LightBridge signal, which means that you can do follow focus as far as 1.2 miles or further, which is our rated range. DJI Focus is going to be available as an add-on to the Inspire 1 package. It'll be $8.99. Now, the Zenmuse X5 shoots high-quality 4K video. If we want to look at some of these video frames, you can see that they look different than most of the aerial videos that we've been seeing posted to YouTube. Specifically, you can see that the background is blurry. Now, this is because we have a larger sensor and big apertures. And so the image quality is better, and there's a very shallow depth of field that's possible. Now, of course, aerial imaging platforms are really designed to move. In this tracking shot of a rally car, the second operator is controlling the camera. But you can imagine that focus could also be pulled by a third operator using that DJI Focus unit. Okay, so here's a summary of the specs. We're using a micro four thirds sensor in the Zenmuse X5. It shoots at 16 megapixels for stills in JPEG and PNG. And it shoots in 4K video at 30 and 24 frames per second with video bit rates of 60 megabits per second. So the Zenmuse X5 is the first integrated aerial imaging system that features a micro four thirds sensor and interchangeable lenses and full remote camera and lens control. Now the Inspire 1 has always been a fantastic tool on sets because of its small size, ease of deployment, and dual operator support. But cinematographers often have steeper requirements for image quality, especially if they're trying to integrate aerial footage into productions that use something like a RED or higher end cinema camera. So we have another announcement that will make the Inspire 1 even more appropriate for high-end professional filmmaking. And that is the Zenmuse X5R. Like its sibling, the X5R uses a micro four thirds sensor and lenses, but the R stands for something very special. So the Zenmuse X5R is the world's smallest 4K lossless cinematic camera. So it shoots 4K video to the open file format that's used for digital cinema files, which is called CinemaDNG. So for those of you who aren't familiar with CinemaDNG, it's a video format that records each frame in its own individual raw DNG file. It means that you can capture the highest quality possible by storing everything coming off of the sensor in RAW format. So all digital cameras shoot in RAW, but most digital cameras will do an in-camera conversion to a format like JPEG, which we see as a picture. So what we're doing here is recording all of the data in RAW, which can lead, of course, to more complex workflows, but what you get in return is a tremendous amount of power and image quality. You're getting lossless video. It's like shooting a 4K image 30 times a second to RAW. Actually, that's exactly what it is. And of course, those of you who are still photographers know the benefits of shooting in RAW. You can do white balancing in the post. There's tremendous latitude for doing color grading. And what we're doing is giving you the ability to retain that information during capture. So the Zenmuse X5R actually records two video streams at the same time. It records raw, lossless CinemaDNG, and it records this to a proprietary 512 gigabyte mini solid-state disk. It also records a proxy QuickTime movie using H.264 compression to the micro SD card. So raw video is captured at an incredible bit rate. Remember, we were capturing about 60 megabits a second to micro SD card. Well, at RAW, we're capturing up to 2.4 gigabits per second. So this is more than 300 megabytes per second of raw footage. Now, the proxy videos are very useful because in RAW workflows, it can be challenging to work with CinemaDNG. So the idea is that we're recording a proxy video, which is the same quality as you would get if you were shooting the Zenmuse X5, and you can basically start editing immediately using those files. Okay, so as I mentioned before, RAW workflows can be quite complicated. So DJI's new CineLight application can be used to apply our color lookup table to capture raw video sequences. You can also do color grading using CineLight. And what CineLight does will then export back to CinemaDNG or also to Apple ProRes or TIFF sequences. And of course, I talked about proxy sequences which are captured. So the idea is you can go through this workflow while you're editing the proxies. So in order to take advantage of the X5R's fantastic sensor and raw recording capabilities, we have created a new logarithmic color space called D-Log, which is what the X5R records to in raw video. So the D-Log color space gives filmmakers the most flexibility in color grading in post. So video captured in D-Log, as in all log modes for video, is low contrast and desaturated out of the camera. But with a bit of grading, videos can easily take on whatever look you're going for in your production. So you have an Audi here driving along a bridge, and you can suddenly make it cruise in the warmth of like a hazy late afternoon or something like that. Now, capturing raw video in D-Log gives professional editors what they need to fulfill their creative desires. So if we look at the specs for the Zenmuse X5R, we're shooting in lossless CinemaDNG at 4K at 30 and 24 FPS. Bit rates average 1.7 gigabits per second and peak at 2.4 gigabits per second. We're capturing those dual video streams, CinemaDNG and a QuickTime Movie Proxy, and we're recording to an integrated, removable 512 gigabyte mini-SSD. The Zenmuse X5 and the X5R will be supported also by DJI's SDK. Now, this is our software development kit. Now, this will give developers control of the X5 and the X5R and access to the media that it captures. So third-party developers will be able to access the most powerful integrated aerial imaging platform on the market and write custom software, custom apps. The Inspire 1 Pro, which comes with the Zenmuse X5 gimbal, is $44.99. The Zenmuse X5 as a standalone, and these both come with a DJI 15mm lens, is $21.99. And these will ship by the end of September 2015, that's this month. Yeah, very exciting. Now the X5R on the Inspire 1 RAW will be $79.99. We will announce the standalone price later, and that will ship in Q4 of 2015. So thanks so much for your time.